Thank you, and let me thank both my colleagues for their comments. I have no questions for colleagues. Mr. Bishop, any questions?
I do. Representative Maloney, if I could ask a couple of questions. Well, not a couple. There's several dozen. The hearing that we had on this bill last Congress, I raised several issues that dealt with private property concerns in this legislation, the protection of private property, and also prohibitions on condemnation that was solely part of Title II, but not in Title V. You readily agreed that it was your intent to protect private property. You wanted never to repeat Kelo on your watch. Why didn't you make any changes in Title V?
If the gentleman has language that he would like to propose to the committee, I will certainly entertain it. Certainly the intent of the bill is only for public lands, not for private lands. I believe that is clear in the bill. If you don't think it's clear enough, I would certainly consider any recommendations to make that stronger.
Representative,
but again,
that's the same thing you said 2 years ago. Why wasn't it fixed when you reintroduced the bill? Well,
why didn't you come with your suggested language? To me, it says private lands are private and public lands are public. If you have a suggestion, we will certainly entertain it. Actually, to make it clear that it is totally that public lands are all we're talking about. We are respecting private property rights. It only concerns land that is owned by the American taxpayer.
Once again, I appreciate that, but as we pointed out 2 years ago, is it in Title V, Section 503, and Section 204? That's where you need to make those changes. Should have been done. Can I also ask you a couple of other things there? You also are using the phrase roadless lands greater than. The state of the art to try and solve that problem is roadless federal lands or to find land somewhere. Once again, 2 years ago we brought that up. Why has it not been fixed in this bill?
Again, if you have some language that you want to clarify it with, we'll certainly entertain it.
Oh, we did 2 years ago. I don't want you simply to brush off the bill and give us back the same thing. This is the fourth time this same bill has been here. So last Congress, you also promised to find out the cost of implementing this legislation. What is it?
The cost of implementing this is going to make money.
No, I'm not saving. Jobs. I don't want savings or jobs. I want the cost of implementing. There will be a cost for the Forest Service and BLM. Once again, 2 years ago we talked about that. You and Mr. Shays didn't have the answer. You said you get it. What is it?
Well, we can go to OMB and request an analysis.
That's what you said 2 years ago again. Okay, last Congress, you didn't know what endangered species would be impacted because there would be an endangered species management change in that. Once again, you said you'd get back with us. Do you now know how many endangered species will be impacted by this bill?
I do not have a specific number of endangered species.
Do you know how many private inholders are going to be affected by this bill? Same question we asked 2 years ago.
Well, private inholders are not going to be affected by this bill.
Well, unfortunately, with the way you've written Title V, yes, they will be. But once again, you told us you would get back with us.
Private inholders are an issue that comes up with any wilderness bill, and NREPA is no exception. But there is a clear answer. The Wilderness Act provides for reasonable access to private inholdings, and the agencies decide what reasonable access means.
Ms. Maloney, as Mr. Kildee and I told you last time you had the same bill here, we have both done wilderness bills in our area. I produced a wilderness bill that was created. Mr. Grijalva didn't think it was enough, but it was still pretty good. In that, we also researched, not only did we have every county commissioner and state legislature and government official in favor of it, we also researched who had private holdings within wilderness areas. The wilderness areas in this country are dotted with private inholdings. We searched them out. We found out who they were. We talked to them. We made changes in our map based on everyone who had a personal private interest in that wilderness area. And the only question I have is in this conglomerate of 24 million acres, do you know how many private inholdings are there?
Well, the agencies decide what reasonable access means, and their access is protected under law now.
Reasonable access has nothing to do with the question. The question is how many private inholdings are there? You either know or you don't know.
I don't know exactly how many private inholdings are there.
All right, according to the map has never changed in this bill. It is now decades old. One of your supporters said that this map only affects the 5 areas. Does this map affect Utah in my district?
Well, the map is here. You know your district better than I do. The map
That's
you can
true.
determine.
That's very true. And let me just tell you, contrary to the indications we were given before, yes, the way the verbiage is written in here, it does now impact into Utah as well. So it's not just Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, Washington, Oregon, British Columbia, Saskatchewan, and the North Pole that have some concern about this particular thing. But once again, we were told opposite information. The map that is presented that goes along with this has not been updated in decades. It is wrong, is inconsistent. Those are type of the things
It has
that
been
should
updated. It has been updated every year by the organizations in the communities that are working on this.
Those are the only ones who are available, and you haven't gone through the process of updating it with legal counsel. Why is there a reason why you believe it's okay for this legislation to move forward without support of a single elected official in any of the affected areas?
It has a great deal of support from the men and women who live in the neighborhoods, and we are working to earn and gain more support.
How do you quantify that?
Well, I'd like to put in the record a list of letters that have come into my office.
Can you quantify that? You don't have a single elected official who's supporting this. Can you quantify the alleged rank and file members who support this? Last time there was a letter supposedly from Manhattan, Montana that you introduced. Mr. Rehberg had X number of letters from Manhattan, Montana that refuted that. Is there any quantifiable data that you have?
We have petitions. We have leaders from the communities. And you don't have to be elected to support a position. So there are many people in the affected areas that support protecting lands that are owned by the federal government.
But you don't have a number that goes to the many, do you?
I don't have a specific number.
Would you support cherry-stemmed roads into wilderness area to shore access for handicapped, including disabled hunters?
Yes, I would.
Thank you. I realize that my 5 minutes has expired here. There are more questions that, once again, we asked 2 years ago. The answers are still not here. Draftsmanship of this particular bill we complained about 2 years ago. It's the same verbiage this time around.
Again, if the gentleman would like to support or put forward his suggested language, I would be very pleased to entertain it.
I was hoping the gentlelady would as part of her responsibility as a sponsor.